Hi everyone, my name is Matt, also known as Treadits.
I'm Tori, also known as Tortor.
I'm Ketch, just known by Ketch.
And today, we're all with the DFW Gaming Village, and we are here with LANallNIGHT, and we're running the tabletop gaming area at the convention.
Helping with some of the video gaming area that is new this year.
Console gaming, yeah.
Console gaming, that's great.
And we think it's a really good idea that some people, we actually started with LAN parties before board games. We were big-time PC gamers, QuakeCon attendees, having our own small little LAN parties. And eventually, well, I'll save it for the slide. But we have a theory about why board games might be coming back. But we think it's a great idea to talk a little bit about how board games are a really fitting hobby for people that are also PC gamers. There's a lot of bleed through there that might not be fully explored. So today we're going to be talking about kind of an introduction of kind of hobby board gaming. And I have a little presentation we're going to transition to right now.
We have a small presentation.
It may or may not be just a PowerPoint. It's a nice PowerPoint.
It's a nice
It's a good PowerPoint.
So, and while we're going through this, I have the Twitch chat pulled up. So if you have any questions, E-Rock, or comments, we can address those kind of as we're going through it.
Yep.
Matt Mercer.
You do with the long hair.
You do.
I know. I desperately need a haircut. Okay, we're actually...
Matt Mercer's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fancy transitions.
Yes. It is a fancy PowerPoint, yeah. So why is the ancient pastime of board gaming becoming more popular? We do have a few theories. And like I was talking about before, we started as PC gamers. We would all bring our computers together, play games. But as the years went on and internet speeds got a little bit better, we found that we could play games from our own home with our friends. So there wasn't that kind of camaraderie of everyone get together and play some games in the same room or in the same building with each other.
You'd have the 1 or 2 times a year that you would go to QuakeCon, or you would go to LANallNIGHT or LANFest, and those were few and far in between. But we also think that's why these big conventions became such so popular, is that people wanted to get back together as opposed to just being online and talking over headphones and whatnot. We all wanted to be in the same room, in the same space. We had missed that camaraderie that came with better internet speeds and just leaving the entire rig set up at home. Because no one wants to move that for a day.
Right. People, we find that even gamers want social interaction, in-person social interaction. While online gaming, and as we've become very aware of over the past year with, of course, COVID and everything, we miss it. We miss getting together with everyone and playing games. And I'm sure a lot of people over the past year have kind of remembered that. But yeah, that's pretty much our theory. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree. I used to be a huge video gamer, but once when I got away from the social interaction, there was a void that needed to be filled. And then plus, coming from like a competitive background, being able to interact with people socially is definitely the best part of what we do.
And it's really easy to just grab a box or a couple boxes for a couple games and take that with you than it is to unplug everything, take it with you, set it back up, have seating, have tables and all that. It's great for an entire weekend, right? But for just on the fly, hey, let's get together and play a game in person, that's where board games really shine.
Yep. And they're very approachable, but we'll get into that. So there's a few classifications we can go over when it comes to board games. Here's just kind of some of the major, I guess, classifications that you would go over when you look at a board game. So first, we have pretty much what type of game is it. We're going to go over different types of mechanisms and mechanics and functions that board games will have that are shared by a lot of other board games. So when someone says, I really like drafting games, well, there's a whole pool of different games that all follow that they all follow that core mechanic.
For sure.
Player count is another big one. There's a lot of 2-player games, think chess or something. Then there's very high player count games like Werewolf and other big party games. And then the other distinction, which is probably one of the more important ones, is weight. When someone says how heavy is a game, they're not talking about the physical weight, how heavy is the box, but rather they're talking about what is the time commitment, what is the how thinky is it, how essentially it's pretty much time, and how many different mechanics are all intertwined with each other and what is the complexity, right?
Yeah.
Is it easy to walk up to say, okay, here's a couple different things you do and play for about 30 minutes, or do you need 30 minutes just to figure out all of the different things that you can do in the game, all the different ways to win, and then sit down at the table for a few hours to actually play the game? So there's walk up, have a great time. Not that the other one isn't a great time, but it is a bit more of a commitment, and some people, they might just be in a mood. They're like, I do not want to think that much right now.
Right.
Or you're like, you know what? It is 10 a.m. and I am awake. I have my Balls energy drink, and we are playing TI4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially whenever you're playing with Matt. You have to let him know time of play.
Time of play, please announce.
Oh, yeah. I want proof, too. People lie to me about that, by the way.
I have an excellent question for this slide from the chat once we talk about it a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, E-Rock.
So we have presented here on the screen kind of a loose list of the different types of games that exist, types of board games that exist. And this by no means covers everything, and some of these might bleed into each other. And
That's awesome.
yeah, so there's quite a few different ones here. So we'll each pick a couple and just kind of talk about them real
Oh,
quick.
sure.
So,
I can't see, but you could tell me, and I.
okay. Ketch, tell us about Euro games. No. I want to do that one. I changed my mind. I want to do Euro games. So there is a game distinction. I immediately remember why I talk about on this. So there's a distinction Euro game. Why they're called Euro games is because they're a style of game that came out of Europe, surprise, surprise, primarily after World War II, that were low conflict. So Europe, certainly after World War II, were not interested in simulating wars and conflict and all the horrible stuff that
Please
happened.
let me just farm and gather sheep and
Yeah.
build
Trade
a
in the
home. Would you
Mediterranean.
like to trade, sir?
So a Euro game is
Don't
more like
attack me.
an economic game versus like I'm trying to kill you game. It's more of like Tori was talking about. I want to produce the most wine in my vineyard, and you, the other player, are a competing vineyard, and we're seeing who can produce the best wine. You know, stuff like that.
That is a super popular game.
Viticulture is the name of that
Yeah.
game. It's very, very good. So on the other side of Eurogame, there's what they call Amerithrash, which the United States did not have a similar style change after World War II. So even after World War II, American game designers were still very much like,
Fight me.
yeah, here I have an army and I'm
think it
going to
got
invade
worse.
your land. You know, I'm going to
worse.
conquer you and all that. So it was still very high conflict. You know, a lot more chance, dice rolling. I rolled higher than you, so you know, think of like
You lose
Risk,
your
stuff like
army,
that.
they do this, I
Yeah.
captured some people, I got a victory point for doing all of that.
Yeah. So a little more in your face, a little more RNG for the American style. You know, for Amerithrash, not Ameritrash. We don't do that. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, with Euro, think like economics, farming, that sort of thing, which
Shout
are fun.
out
They're both
to
great.
two Daves, he loves viticulture and Tuscany. Game
Tuscany is
changer.
Ooh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, and we have a comment that sounds kind of like PvE.
Yeah. So they can still be competitive. So it's yeah. I mean,
Do you want to
still
be
in a
the
way.
best at making wine?
Yes, right.
Most,
So
most efficient.
some of the economic games, especially like auction games, can be brutally
Don't talk to
competitive.
me about auction games.
Yeah, they can be brutally competitive, but they're still like you're not trying to murder each other. You're just trying to get the most bang for your buck on with these goods or something.
For sure.
So Tori, which one do you want to pick?
Deception, betrayed. So, some of you who have seen us a lot here know that we like to play deception games, which is you have a secret roll, and there's a majority of people at the table who have a good roll, but there's a select few people that have a bad roll. And so the bad roll is trying to overtake whatever it is that you guys are at, and the majority of the players are trying to get those guys out of it. So a popular game right now is Among Us. This came before that. Mafia, Werewolf, Deception,
Resistance.
Resistance. And that's just kind of, it's really fun to just walk up, here's your card, argue with people. All right. Like, it's a great time. We could do that for hours. And that's a game I like to end the night with, play some of these heavier games that we're talking about during the day, and by the time that I'm like done thinking about how to make the best farm or
Yeah.
city or trying to conquer the great cosmos with Cthulhu, then I just want to argue with my friends.
Yeah. So think of like lying the game.
Deck building.
You're trying to
Oh, sure, yes.
get over on your friends. They're typically very social, a lot of social interaction, typically not a lot of components, but that sometimes not always the case.
There have been games where people will just go up to a table, sit, play the game, and like, all right, you won, good job, shake hands and walk away.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just like that thinking and a little more like solitaire. Some people get into that.
Especially in cons.
Yep.
You'll see people that will just drop in for like a game or two, and they'll disappear. You'll never see them people again. After they lie to you in your face.
All right, Catch, do you want to go over...
I was thinking deck building for guys.
Oh yeah, that's fine. So deck building. All right. When it comes to deck building, the most common type of deck builders are going to be, there's a pool of cards. You're going to use some type of influence. That could be money. If we're looking at some of the more mainstream ones, like Marvel Legendary, you'll be using like fighting to defeat things. But what you're doing is you start with a pool of cards. Typically, they're the same as everybody else's. And what you use from the resources that your cards generate to bring in more cards into your deck is going to be different from everybody else's. That's going to be the most popular. But one thing that's sliding into the deck building world is shuffle building. Shuffle building has became extremely popular. So instead of building the deck while you're playing the game, what you're doing is you're actually starting a game with two separate entities and combine them together.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite games now is Marvel Champions.
Weird.
It's a good one.
It's amazing. It's so
And they're
good.
still coming out with content. Didn't Star-Lord and
month.
Gamora like just come out?
Yeah, so pretty much Fantasy Flight, but yeah, I'll get on that later if somebody asks questions. But yeah, it's pretty much you go in there with the mindset that you're playing with cards. Everything that you're doing in this game is going to result from cards. That was the stereotypical type of deck builders. Then you had games like Clank that came out, where you're using your cards to do things on a board. There's so many different avenues of approach that you can do with deck building, but if you love card games like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, that is definitely the easiest transition to the board game world, is deck building.
And you can do cooperative, competitive, semi-cooperative, and competitive, where it's like one versus many. Oh my god, there's so many options.
Yeah, the game is essentially building a deck. So if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering or something like that, so a whole part of the game is building a deck to go play people with. A deck builder is like...
Yeah, so
the whole
you're doing
point of the
that
game is
building while you're playing the game.
Right.
Instead of pre-for,
But some
instead
of them
of
have like
constructed.
if there's a campaign, then you start with a
Oh,
basic
man.
one, and then as you go through the campaign, you acquire new cards, and you guys kind of build up as a team. Or yeah, like you said, just combine a couple of them, and that's what you play for that session.
Oh yeah.
One more real kind of popular one that exists out there also is what they call a worker placement. And that's very simple to explain typically in that you have an assigned number of workers, so they're usually represented by little meeples, and there's typically a board, and when you take one, your whole turn is to take one of your workers and put it on the board on whatever space does that action. So for example, if I take a worker, I put it, say, viticulture or something, I get a card, or I produce something, or, you know.
You get money.
Or get money or something, yeah. So there's those kind of games too, and there's a lot of them.
Some of the
many,
old
many.
school ones would be like Lords of Waterdeep. A lot of people have seen that one
Champions
or heard
of
of that
Midgard.
one. Two of the ones that are huge, I would say, is Champions of Midgard and Reavers of Midgard. They're in the same universe, but they're wildly different approaches to a very similar mechanic. And one of them, you guys are fighting for the glory of the gods, and you are going to these places. You are fighting Burgazars, Draugrs, monsters,
Trolls.
whatever, trolls. Otherwise, the troll like makes everybody take blame. So it's a very combative worker placement, and it's probably one of my favorite. But in the same universe, you have Reavers of Midgard, which is more like, I'm going to go hang out with this village over here, or I'm going to go recruit some more people for my ship. And you're gathering sets kind of on the down low. Like you can see some of these piles start to grow in front of people, but they're all face down. And there's a lot of victory points that happen with set collecting at the end of the game. So same universe, two wildly different approaches to worker placement that can kind of fit if you prefer more like roll the dice and fight some monsters, or if you prefer, I'm going to go here, gather some stuff. How many points did I just get?
What question do we have?
E-Rock asked, what are some board game mechanics that you are excited to see more of in the near future?
Oh, that's a
I know,
That's
right?
a tough question.
I mean, I could tag that, and I want to grab one of those too. There's auction on there.
Oh,
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, it is.
It
Yeah,
is.
it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
I want more auction games.
yeah,
I really enjoy auction games. Yeah.
As you can tell, I'm tired of that with these
Yeah.
two. Mister, he goes from I'm gonna bid $1, and then next thing you know, it's like 250 million bazillion, like, blah.
Oh, QE.
And I'm like, what are you doing? How can that's so many zeros?
All right. I just want, I think everyone, I want to talk about QA just real quick because it is an auction game, but it's an auction game where there's no maximum bid. However, whoever has spent the most in their bids at the end of the game automatically loses. So that's how you can go from $1 to $1 zillion. Like,
Yeah, you just make up numbers.
yeah. So it's an interesting auction concept. But yeah,
But for sure, auction is definitely the genre of choice for me at the moment, for sure.
Yeah.
But what are some of your favorite ones from that?
Oh, so Modern Art is a Reiner
Beautiful
Knizia game. Is possibly one of the few flawless designs I would say that's out there in the board game space. What you're doing is you're part of a art gallery and you're seeking out these young artists and you're trying to get their art and put it in your museum. But what's cool is you're spending money on these paintings and then you bring them into your showroom, but then you start selling them as well to other people. I love it because close economy games, those are my favorite type of auction games, where however much money you have, the only way that you can make money is by selling those goods because the bank is no longer going to pay you out.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's so great.
That
It's
is one that I
interesting,
did not want to flip the table when we were done playing. But QE was a different story.
QEs. It makes you angry.
It makes you angry. Once
It's
someone
a
starts
very-
adding those zeros, it's just like, no.
It's certainly a silly game, but fun.
Medici is one that hits the table very
Always.
often as an auction game.
Yeah.
And Biblios as well. And Biblios, you're a monk and you are collecting tombs for your tomes.
Yeah, let me say it's so Biblios, one of my favorite games, but get this theme. The players are all monks coming from their respective monasteries to an auction, a holy auction, where they are bidding on different books to take back to their monastery.
And when you explain that to someone, they're just like,
No.
I think I'm okay. Yeah.
I mean, what else?
Yeah.
But it's
You're like,
actually
no, it's Bud, I promise.
it's actually incredibly fun.
Oh, even on that same note, Brass. Brass
Oh, yeah.
is a
Oh,
great
yeah.
auction game.
Yeah, it is.
And
Still don't know how I won that game.
I don't either.
Build the trains.
But same thing, steel industry. You're building railroad tracks to transport coal, steel, and all these goods throughout
London?
London.
Yeah, somewhere in Britain.
Yeah, like Berkshire, Palace, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it sounds dry, but those are some of the best games.
Yeah.
And that one has two different ones.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
But
It was
One has
wildly
beer.
popular.
yeah,
There
and
is a whole genre of like railroads, just people who love
18XX.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
that's another one though. You approach someone, it's like, do you want to help improve the infrastructure of Berkshire so we can move goods to port? And everyone's like,
No.
And we did move ahead a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Way
We
to go.
rambling. Yeah.
Erock, I want to say that we are going to touch on role-playing games at the very end, but role-playing games is a whole awesome aspect, and you can actually add some of the aspects of just like getting into character depending on some of these games that you play. Like there's a game called Red Dragon Inn, where it is 50 or it is over 50 different characters at this point. And the concept is that this is your time that you are done with the adventure and you go to the end and you guys hang out and whatever shenanigans happen.
Tip the winch.
So there's so many characters that you could pick up a character that is very similar to the one that you're playing in that role-playing game and then just kind of like have fun with your friends for a little bit. That's a little less structured than the D&D part of it.
Yeah.
But the RPGs, it's just a whole segment that we want to get to, especially towards the end. It's just unlimited.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. Like people have come up and said, "Hey, is anybody going to do a one-shot, or does anybody have a teaching D&D session?" Things like that. So it's something that we want to bring to more of these conventions with us, E-Rock, and bring more than just D&D, like
Yeah.
all of these other role-playing
Paranoia.
games to the table. Paranoia.
Okay, so we've gone on
Sorry.
at some
There's
length
a
about
lot
game
of
types. I know
types.
honestly we could talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah.
So let's talk about game weight. Again, one of the important distinctions between games. So game weight, again, is essentially how complex and how long a game is. There's a couple different weight distinctions that we make. There's a light game. Light games are typically low complexity, 10 to 15, 20-minute games to play, and they're often considered gateway games. So you would, just to gauge someone's interest in a board game, you would set something that's not too light to where it's like a kid's game or something, but maybe something with a little more meat on it that only takes maybe 15, 20 minutes just to see if it's something they enjoy. Because one of the things you don't want to do is meet someone that, is interested in board games and then set out some huge game that takes 10 hours.
TI4.
TI4.
I've taught a poor, unfortunate soul, copyright, TI4 when they were clearly like on their second date with a friend or something and had not played board games before, and I was like, oh,
Bad move.
I'm so sorry, but we're going to try to make this as painless as possible.
Yeah.
Never saw.
When we say
them again.
TI4, we're
We tried.
talking about Twilight Imperium 4th edition also, just so you know. And we'll go over that also in a sec. So medium games are usually, obviously, moderate complexity, maybe an hour or two to play. And a heavy game, high complexity as you can imagine, usually over 3 hours to play. I would consider a heavy game. And again, why we make the distinction? Because you have to know your audience. You
Yeah.
have to know the situation, and you have to play it by ear. Because there's certainly inappropriate times to bring out certain games. If you're waiting in line, for some reason, you don't want to bust out some humongous game. You just want to play a quick little card game. That kind of thing. So we have a couple recommendations, and the recommendations are a little dated now. However, I still think they hold true.
Good classic ones. And we can still, as we go through each one,
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about
go
ones
ahead.
that we've really brought in lately. Maybe.
There we go.
Ooh, code names.
So Codenames.
Such a pretty.
It's a team-based game that can be played with essentially any amount of players, but normally 2v2, maybe 3v3, where one player is going to be a codemaster, and two players, one on each team, are going to be a codemaster, and they're trying to get their team to guess a word based on clues, which are typically either pictures or word cards on the table in a grid, and they're trying to guess the word on the card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A better way to explain it is imagine that you were a part of the government and you're trying to send these messages out to your field agents because they're spies and you don't want to blow their cover. So you're giving, instead of saying, hey, Matt, go over there, you could be like, it says water, shark.
Shark
and stuff
3.
like Shark 3.
I'm
And
going to
then,
pick the scuba diver, the cage, and the ocean.
Yeah, so you give the clue masters give a one-word clue, and then it's up and a number, and that clue aligns with that many cards on the table for their team. And whoever whoever picks all of selects all of their team's cards first wins. However, there's a twist in that one of the cards is called the assassin, and if you accidentally pick that, your team automatically loses.
You had a really good clue many years ago. Do you remember that one?
Yes. My clue is Hannibal, and I didn't play to my team very well because I was thinking about Hannibal of Carthage, crossing the Alps. Everyone thought I was talking about the serial killer. We did not win.
But it was things like elephant, mountains,
Right. Italy or something. It's like it was all this stuff. So
they're
I
like,
was
yes,
come
Hannibal
on.
of Carthage, and they were
Hannibal
like,
left there.
yeah, they were like, there's a straight jacket here. There's lotion.
All right, so we move into a little bit heavier, medium weight. And again, a gateway game is probably in between a really light game and a medium game.
Yeah, for sure.
This one is Lords of Waterdeep. This is a worker placement like we were talking about. And in this game, you take one of your workers and you send them out to recruit adventurers and heroes to go out and fulfill quests. And the quests have a score on them. So once you collect enough adventurers, you send them out on the quest and you score your points.
Yeah. What are some more medium weight games? We said that we would give them some more examples. We did kind of skip over that with
some
lightweight
medium?
and gateway.
Yeah,
Hold on. Let's go back a little bit to light and gateway games. What are some of your favorite light and gateway games to bring to the table for new time gamers?
I really like the simple deception games, like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, for example.
That's a good start.
I also really like word games. I think they're very approachable.
Word Slam is excellent.
Yeah, Word Slam is
Slam
another
at 5.
great.
Word Slam in 5.
Yeah, it's a great team-based word guessing game again. Oh wow!
Draftosaurus is a really good one. That's one that we found at Gen Con, and actually I think 2 expansions just came out for it.
Mm-hmm.
So like Common Ground games nearby and Madness nearby would be great places to look for some of those. What are some of yours?
Light, anything that's party games, pretty much.
Party games?
Yeah, party games.
I throw those into the light category. I mean, of course, I wouldn't say werewolf or stuff like that because it's a little bit more in detail, but cash and guns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A few more good ones are Azul, because Azul is you are just trying to collect these tiles to make this really pretty but also strategic design that gets you victory points. So everyone is just drafting these tiles, placing it on their board to get points, and whoever gets the most points after a certain number of turns wins, right? Or whenever you fill up part of it. What else? Ticket to Ride is a good one from E-Rock. Right?
Oh, for sure. But a great light game that actually can vary in difficulty, Marvel United.
Marvel
that's also very true. That's a Kickstarter game from CMON that just
And Spin Master.
and Spin Master that just came out not too long ago. The Kickstarter's shipped out. We have our copy. I really like it. It is very approachable. It's a co-op game, so it's all the players at the table are trying to defeat one bad guy, and it's a very simple card-based system where you're using these cards to move around essentially a town.
Yeah, you either do punchy stars or wilds, or movement. Punchy stars, wild movement.
Yep. So you're trying to beat up the bad guys, save civilians, and then defeat the boss. And there's small rules
and
for each scenario.
Whatever you do helps the other person that goes after you, things like that. But we just said the Kickstarter for that one ended for Marvel United. However, the Kickstarter for X-Men
just also finished.
Oh, did it just finish?
And it can be something as simple as I played my first game of Marvel United with my 5-year-old son because it's just icons, right? And it was easy because of the character that we chose and also the villain that we approach. But I went to an adult group and played this, and we went against a harder opponent, and it kicks it up into like third gear.
It's one that levels no matter what your age group is really well.
It actually has a really cool system has a system called a challenge system, which is awesome. Which you can actually tailor the difficulty. So if you have some really hardcore gamers, you can make it a pretty difficult experience. Rhino's very difficult.
Against Rhino.
We discovered Rhino from Spider-Man, I guess. Yeah. So he beat us in one turn. The bad guy goes first. We tried him out. We lost in one turn. And we're like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what happened?
And when you look on the FAQ, they're like, well, you lost, but if you feel like you need to tone it down a bit because you can't handle it,
yeah,
this rule instead. We were like, rude.
Yeah, we didn't do anything. Yeah.
Gunshots.
Any medium weight games that you want to talk about?
Ooh, medium weight games. Oh, one more. E-Rock said just one for the gateway games. There's another word game that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
So we were talking about Lords of Waterdeep, and we were saying that, about an hour or so with a few more mechanics going on. Those games like Reavers of Midgard and Champions of Midgard, I think would be good candidates for that. Clank, that was mentioned for deck building.
Clank is good.
Oh, all of the Legendary games. So Legendary goes through, and there's like Legendary Alien, Legendary Predator, and they do combine, and you can fight against each other. Legendary, like everything. Marvel, Firefly, 007, Buffy. There's Legendary Buffy. So the Legendary game, and this one is a cooperative one, but you can go through whatever it is. You can go through episodes, you can go through movies, you can just randomize it and set up your own stuff. And you guys are all trying to beat the scenario by building your own individual decks. And again, that has icons that you can combine to make combos, but there's a few more icons than there would be for like the Marvel United game. So that's what makes it a little bit more medium to me.
Yeah. It's so funny. We think about medium games. We mostly play medium games. I kind of draw a blank. We play everything, honestly.
Games. Like Unicorn Fever is a pretty good medium game. Because I would put Camel Up. So there's two racing games that hit the table a lot. It's Camel Up, and Unicorn Fever. I would put Camelot being a lot simpler with just a couple of betting mechanics and Gateway, but then Unicorn Fever is a little bit more thinky, and there's a lot more to each race, and like seeing how the different unicorns move to get to the end of the rainbow. And
yeah, I would put both of those under medium, though. For sure, I would put both those under medium weight. Those are betting games, so essentially there's a race going on, and usually how the race happens is a little random, but you're just trying to play the odds, and it's pretty much pure gambling. But it's a lot of fun, and I would say those are great medium weight games.
You aren't questioning this. I agree. I think that Camelot is more intro, but that Unicorn Fever is medium. But again, that's like splitting hairs between is it in the green or is it in the yellow?
I mean, to be honest,
could dip into lighter.
My classification for games is a little bit more different, mainly because before you guys, because you guys have to host and you play a lot of games that anybody brings to the table. I used to play with Eurogamers, so I got introduced to heavy games early. So a lot of my classifications are some of the medium weight games actually may feel a little lighter, and then some of the more complex feels medium. Yeah. But it's just know your audience at the end of the day.
So one recommendation for medium, you're fine. For medium is Tiny Towns.
Oh, Tiny Towns, I love it.
Ooh, where would you place Fury of Dracula?
Medium.
I put it as medium with a boatload of lies.
Yeah, medium. It's on the upper end of medium, in my opinion. We've had some of those games, at least lengthwise, take quite a bit of time.
It's only because it's finicky. That's the only reason why.
But rules, it's not terribly rules complex. Once you get into the flow of the game, the rules aren't too bad. But what starts to happen is that Fury of Dracula essentially is one player's Dracula, and they're doing hidden movement, and they're trying to hide all around Europe. And there are 3 other players that are working as a team against Dracula trying to hunt him down. And so what can make the game take a little long and be a little more thinky is that you'll have the 3 hunters have a long, complex discussion about where should we go. And so that can go on and on and on.
And you argue because you're all wrong. And
Dracula's just sitting there like, interesting theory.
They have their own little board. But this, I wouldn't even know necessarily what to call this, but this has a really good like horror theme that can go to it because it is one versus many, and you can get into like Jack the Ripper, Fury of Dracula. It was the Friday the 13th game with my favorite picture where we won. The campers beat.
Was it Friday
the Friday the 13th?
Probably that's right. Yeah.
Well, we beat Catch on the last action the last turn of the game. If we had failed it, Catch would have won. And he's looking at the table and he's like, "Did that just happen?" I had like my camera ready to go and I captured it, and he was just like, "This seriously just happened. You spent the entire game. I thought I had this in the bag, and y'all found me."
But what happened was it was pure luck. Somebody suggested a random behind action.
Yeah,
I don't know who said it. It was the person before the last person. It was like, "Let's do this." We already lost. Oh well, let's go ahead and do it. Yeah, so they do the action, and it puts it right next to me. I'm like, I don't know how that happened. And then somebody, there's a trigger or something that they know that I'm close. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm not going to say nothing because I want to win. And they just made like a 25% odd chance.
It just happened.
Action. And it just beat me. I was destroying them the entire game. For an hour and a half, I was just slapping people left and right.
And there is a back and forth to this. So it's like, there's a moment where he's chasing us, but then we get like feisty and we start to chase him. Remember that part of the movie? And then it goes back where he's chasing us. So you do this back and forth. And even when we were chasing him, we're like, oh, that was good.
Yeah, y'all couldn't find me, but they found me at the end.
Very last possible turn.
We're 35 minutes in, so we're going to have to zoom.
Oh,
That's fine.
Zoom. This is introduction. They're learning.
There's no time. No. Heavy game. So this picture is outdated. This is Twilight Imperium 3rd edition. This is what I would absolutely consider a heavy game. It is what we call a 4X game. So what are the X's?
It is expand, exploit, exterminate,
exploration.
Yeah. So you all are playing a different alien race, and you're essentially just trying to score points based on objectives that are laid out while competing with everyone around you. It's one of my favorite games, the 4th edition.
Some of the coolest things, though, is you build the galaxy before you even get to that point. So you draft tiles. You can do a pre-made map, but you draft tiles, and you build out this whole universe.
As a
galaxy.
As a group, you do this. So the game starts by building the galaxy, and so you're like, I need a really good planet right by.
And you're already mad at each other before pieces even hit the board because you're like, why would you put a wormhole next to my home system?
Here's a picture of 3rd edition being played right now. One of the main ways to score points is to take the center planet, which is a very valuable planet, Mechatol Rex. So it's kind of a king of the hill game also, in that you got to get the person off Mechatol because they're scoring too many points. And then, of course,
tickets are right. Okay.
How did we get here?
It's out of order. I apologize, everyone. Then we go to Gateway. So Ticket to Ride, you essentially are just drafting little train cards, and when you play a certain number of them, you build a train track.
To pause a bit at Heavyweight, though. We just glanced over it. There's more than TI4, Matt.
But wait, there's more.
There is more?
Oh, there's more.
Okay, I believe you.
We'll get back to that.
Okay, we'll get back to it. E-Rock's got comments.
Look at that.
Oh my god, it happened again.
So we played an 8-player game not that long ago. So Twilight Imperium 4th Edition came out with an expansion to bring the game up to 8 players. And I think, in my opinion, it works well. It's still very, very fun. Everyone stays quite engaged, but it is a lot.
It takes you 24 hours to play.
This table is a 4-foot by 6-foot table.
And this is not enough.
It barely fits. Yeah, really.
We're using the cubbies and everything along the side. But it is excellent. They did a really good job of making it work with anywhere from 3 to the full 8 players.
Epic experience. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check it out. I love it.
So a couple more heavyweight games, I think. Oh, and actually, we do have a question before we go into more that we like. Is heavyweight more? I keep saying heavyweight like a belt. More about the time investment or the mechanic investment?
It's a combination. There's some games that take a long time that I wouldn't necessarily call heavy.
But because they take a long time, I think it pushes it into that category for me.
Right, I agree.
Or in between.
I think it's level of I don't know. It's like how invested do I have to be into this? How locked in am I, and how long do I have to be locked in?
And I think naturally, just the more time that goes by, the more investment there is.
But there's some games,
and anger,
and more rules.
Table flipping.
More rules typically mean longer time, because if you're having to evaluate and go through more rules, just by that nature, the game's going to take longer.
Be a couple hours long.
Yeah, I mean, time to me doesn't determine if something is heavy or not, because we play Werewolf.
Yeah, that could take hours.
Werewolf takes hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can play a fun solo game for hours on end, and I necessarily won't be heavy. It's definitely mechanic focused for me.
Those are good points.
Depending on how much I have to invest myself, I think that's what you're trying to get at. Like, how much mental exhaustion am I going to get from this?
Yeah.
How long is it taking me to think of my plays? If it's taking me 2 minutes to think about my plays, the complexity is more higher, because you don't get that. I can do it. Don't worry about it. I'll make up for it later.
Analysis paralysis does add to heaviness.
For sure.
Yeah.
AP hits you. I mean, unless you're talking about like tiny towns, because you're trying to min-max it. If you take min-maxing out and you just look at AP alone,
there is a game that is ridiculously adorable, and it has no right to be as thinky as it is. Calico.
Oh.
You are making a quilt with buttons and cats, okay? And you have to make certain patterns with your buttons and get all this, and it's ridiculously adorable and cute, and you can use different cats, and they're all like the cats of the creators, so they're named, and they want certain patterns, or certain this, that, and the other, and you're like, yeah, this is great, and I'm going to build my quilt. And then as your space gets smaller and smaller, and you have less and less spaces, you're like, oh my god, what have I done? I need this pattern, and I need this, and by the end of it, the analysis paralysis is real, and you're so stressed about making your adorable quilt.
Yeah,
but it's amazing.
I would say that's also more. It's a thinky game, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of
anything
different
with spatial involvement.
Exactly. So shape, space, colors, all of that.
But it's so simple. It's shapes and space and colors.
I mean, So there can often be a big point gap in that because of how thinky it is. Like you can make a mistake and just really mess up your game. But I would say that's a medium weight game. I think it takes about an hour to play, and you can do very well.
It has enough depth to jump to the medium.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another one I just want to say that's a fantastic theme when you're trying to sell the game to someone and say that, do you want to play Calico with me? It's a game where we're all trying to build the best blanket to attract cats.
Yeah.
So that's
It's amazing.
I don't know. Something about
But then
just,
they get mad at you because they're like, "This is so thinky."
yeah, I know. It's like
awesome,
I
but
can
they
make
love
a
it.
pretty blanket, and then they're like, "Wait, this is really hard."
So I actually
broad.
agree with E-Rock on heavyweight game Battlestar Galactica. That was one
Yeah.
of the first board
yeah.
games that I played with understanding that board games was a hobby and a like re-emerging thing probably in 2014 or something. And I loved the trader mechanic right away, but it does have a lot more to it than just here's your card, go have fun. There, you're trying to save Battlestar Galactica, you're trying to escape from the Cylons, and it is a brutal, wonderful. There's several different mechanics going on. It takes about 4 to 6 hours, and it is an experience the entire time.
It is also an experience. Yeah, it's
God,
cool.
it is fun. It's one of my favorites still. And Agricola is another one from Erox.
So the other distinction we talk. Yeah, Agricola is pretty. I would say that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that and Caverna.
Yeah, and those are worker placement games. Yeah.
If it has if you see these 3 letters at the bottom, typically it's going to be heavyweight, UWE.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uwe Rosenberg.
Yeah, his games are usually pretty heavy. The other distinction we make is player count, and just anecdotally, I'll say it's shocking how many times I'll see someone just getting into the hobby. They'll have like a 2 to 4 player game, and they're at like someone's house with 9 people, and they're like, "Let's play this," and it's like,
We've all done it with like Monopoly. Like,
Sure,
just go get a tack.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Add it to it.
But yeah, most games have a strict player limit. Sometimes you can, mess with a little bit and just kind of make it happen, but most of the time it's pretty strict.
And see if you're willing to break into 2 groups. Like, okay, we both have, there's 8 of us, and there's 2 4-player games that we want to play. Who wants to play this? Who wants to play that? But at usually a certain point in the night, everyone wants to play a game together, so you're going to want to look for these games with higher player count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some games don't have a player count at all, which is what we're going to talk about next. But yeah, you can often house rule adding a player to something,
Oh, glorious werewolf.
Yeah. So games with loose player counts. So on the picture to the left, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but that is at a convention where we host a werewolf event, and we have over 100 people in a room playing in 4 villages a game of werewolf. And again, werewolf is a social deduction game where you're a village. Everyone's a villager, but some people amongst the village are werewolves, and the villagers are trying to find and kill the werewolves, and the werewolves are trying to kill the villagers before parity is met. So
you just lie and kill people.
yeah, pretty
Lie,
much.
murder, try to find the truth.
And deduction.
Deduction.
Not really.
Solve the mystery.
Deducing?
You're a werewolf.
No.
No, I'm not.
Whoever has the best argument.
Yeah.
And I will say, I really love going to conventions where cosplay is a thing, because then you are playing this game with all of these different characters
Oh,
at a
so
circle.
cute.
And I am moderating this one as Rogue, so that's pretty fun. And
Yeah.
people didn't want me to touch them because I didn't have my gloves on
Oh,
so
yeah.
I could write.
It's
They're like,
dangerous.
whoa there.
And
I
then
know what happens when you get near me.
the picture on the right is a game that can be played up to, I think, like 42 people or so. And even then, you can add more. There's different roles. But that game is Aegon's Conquest, which is a Game of Thrones themed, they call it a mega game.
And there's actually a group called Dallas Mega Games that does this, and they have several of them, but Aegon's Conquest is one of their babies.
Yeah, and so you can see Queen Tori looking over the battle map of, what's the continent?
Mysterious.
Yeah,
Westeros, yeah, looking over a map of Westeros, and there's all the...
Watching our kingdom fall from being backstabbed.
Yeah.
Was that when you were the
You
the Night
turned
Watchman?
into the night.
Yeah, I think I
you
was.
joined
Yeah.
the wall. You
So-
left the Starks and joined the wall.
And that was a game that I won. So one thing I hate with a passion is king making. That's when you say, "Hey, I can't win, so I'm gonna make sure this person wins." Throughout the past 10 years of my board gaming experience, I hate it. Matt was the tiebreaker, and it was between
Oh, that was
our
terrible.
team and somebody else. And I literally looked at them. I was like, "Hey, I apologize, but we came with them, so GG."
Yeah, it was funny. I thought the game was over. I didn't realize how close it was. I remember now. I was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yes.
Lord.
And 2 teams were tied. And I remember the moderators
Lannisters.
came in. I was in the other room. I thought we're done. And he's like, "Hey, you have to break a tie." And he said, "Yeah, your friends are one of them." And I was like, "I I'm
based on that.
absolutely biased here. I think you need another way, and it's like,
But
nope, you have to do
You
it.
guys
I was like,
had
oh.
contributed a lot to
Oh,
the
right.
Night's
I
Watch
didn't do it
before that.
unfairly.
You were like,
We gave you our sire.
because we
Yeah.
didn't know what that did. That was a
Right.
new mechanic to that thing. Someone was Lord Commander, and they were taking people's heirs as the, we were like,
Yeah.
okay, what does this mean for the end of it? So that's one of the cool things about these mega games. It's an all-day event. You join with a couple people, or just
So
say,
good.
I have a ticket, and that group is going to fill up, and you
Yep.
meet some new people and hang out for the day,
Yeah,
all
look-
trying to see who wins. There's one that's Watch the Skies, and we're about to do the Den of Wolves one, but
that sounds
oh
good.
god, it's
Yeah,
it's really good.
look up Dallas Mega Games. They're a great group of guys. They run a really fun event, and we try to make every single one.
But it's
lot
still a
of fun.
board game. Look at that board.
Yeah, it's still I would consider a
multiple
tabletop
board
experience
games.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a tabletop experience and a social experience. But yeah, it's fantastic. Move on. Try to move on.
Try to.
Attempts.
clicky.
Attempts are made.
Some of this was asked in there, like where can you get some of these board games, tips for buying board games.
Okay.
That's somewhere in these comments if you want to.
Yeah, so just a few tips for buying board games. First, we recommend you check out your LFGS, your local friendly game store. Of course, with over the past year, that's been a little more difficult. You know, gaming spaces have been closed, but they're starting to reopen.
So many of them will let you order online and pick
Yeah.
up outside. Like Common
Some
Ground
even drop
Games is
off.
really good about that. Oh yeah, if you're close
Yeah, that's
enough,
true.
they'll drop off. Common Grounds, Madness,
Generation
and
X.
Generation X are some of the three big ones in the area. I think there's like Docks in Frisco.
Yeah, there's Docs.
And there's
also
one in Louisville.
there's Sci-Fi Factory.
Sci-Fi Factory.
That's in Keller. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot around here.
Yeah.
And the good thing about buying from your local game store is that you're supporting their game space essentially. And kind of one of the rules you want to follow is if you're using their game space, we highly recommend you buy the games from there so they can keep that space open, because that space isn't free.
Mhm.
They have to make money.
Free isn't free, Bucko.
Yeah, very good. The MSRP, the prices are usually MSRP or maybe even a little higher to pay for the space essentially,
But they do
which
have
is fine.
sales, buy two, get one free, stuff like
Yeah,
that. Look
that's
for
almost
those.
yearly.
Yeah, like I say,
they'll do one around December, and then like whenever their anniversary event is,
Yeah.
typically.
yeah, like I say on the PowerPoint, it helps keep the gaming space open. It helps supplements the gaming space. Buying online is
that
a
close.
good option.
Buying online. So yeah,
I
the
didn't know
difference between buying online and buying in a store just goes back to what Matt was saying. If you go to Amazon and there's high stock of it, it's going to be cheaper on Amazon.
Mhm.
That's just the way it goes. But by you buying on Amazon, yes, you save about like $5 or $10.
Yep.
Where you could give that $5 or $10 back to your local game store and keep that space open.
Yeah.
So I understand sometimes money is tight and you have to. If it's something that you want to do, sure, go for it. Or
Yeah.
you can go used.
And used is a big way that we have, like you guys have probably seen some of us posting on Discord, and we have a lot of games. A lot of that is just from going through BGG-Con or the forums and things like that, and people will do these sales where they're just, hey, we don't play these games anymore. We want them to go to a place where it's going to get played again. So
Yeah.
it's a good way to pick up some games where they don't just get thrown away or forgotten about on a shelf or something.
And they're usually, people often sell their used games because they either want space or they're kind of falling out of the hobby. Falling out of the hobby is very rare, but normally they're just making room for new games.
Mhm.
And normally the prices are fantastic. We're like talking 75, 80% off typically. And then the other thing you can think of is when you're buying games, don't feel super bad, because a lot of the times games hold on to their value.
Yes.
So if you want to get a price for your game, you can hold out and someone will eventually pay you for it, because board games go out of print. You know, different companies lose a license and they can't make the game anymore. So what supply is out there is all that's going to exist. And so, like for example, Battlestar Galactica,
Out of
no
$400
longer
game?
no longer in print. It went from a $50 to $60 game to now,
About 400.
yeah.
Well, that's with all the expansions. But yeah,
Yeah,
it would be
what
like
this is-
$50 per like base game and all the expansions. But now for the entire bundle, it'd be
Yeah.
about 400.
Oh,
Yeah.
the expansion for Five Tribes, not the artisan one, but the other one, it's a $130 expansion.
'Cause there's
Oh, I didn't know.
$25 MSRP.
And here's something
Wow.
that goes on too. If you look at games like Wingspan and Stardew Valley, those are some games that it's not that they go out of print, it's that they make a limited run and then they sell those while they're making more. So that's Wingspan will go anywhere from $50 to like $120 simply because somebody really wants it in that time that it's not readily available.
Yeah.
And then Stardew Valley did almost the same thing. They did a very limited run. Everybody really wanted to check out this game. And now if you wanted to resell it, you could resell it for a lot because there are people who just simply want the game, even though we're being told that more are being made and they will hit soon.
Yeah, in between print runs.
Yeah, in between print runs, you got it. We have about 8 minutes.
Yes. The other thing is...
RPGs.
Yeah. Well, you got to research and try before you buy.
Yes.
And there's some
That's what we're for.
Yeah. So a lot of anime and gaming conventions, we happen to be at a gaming convention, LANallNIGHT, usually have tabletop or gaming rooms. So they usually have gaming libraries. We brought a gaming library for the event. Come play some games. Try them out for free or with purchase of badge. Many libraries, like local libraries, now lend out board games.
We've done a few small conventions at libraries that are, it promotes the library. We teach some of the games there, things like that. So
it gets the community involved.
Yeah, they're all about community outreach, which is really cool.
BoardGameGeek.com. It's a massive board game database. They pretty much have every board game that's ever been made ever on there, and there's an entire page for every game on there that have forums, images,
their overall top ranks.
Yeah, where they rank, what type of game they are, how long they take, player count. Excellent database for board games.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's wiki.
Yeah, pretty much. YouTube. Watch some reviews. Some of our favorites are Dice Tower and
Shut Up and Sit Down.
Shut Up and Sit Down.
I need to add that. They're very good.
Yeah.
They're funny. Rahdo Runs Through. So Rahdo Runs Through is pretty neat because he'll actually just have a camcorder and he will just literally play the game.
Yeah.
We're talking shaky cam.
Yeah, right. It's action cam. Yeah. it's
roll the dice.
It's POV.
A few tips for having a successful game night. Pick the game in advance.
Yes.
If it's your first game night, we suggest lighter games, just so you don't get stuck in the...
you talking about Arkham Horror?
Yeah. I'll go into that in just a sec.
Sort of.
Pick a game with a theme, mechanic, or weight that you think people enjoy. So if someone doesn't like zombies, don't bring a zombie game or something. It's just stuff like that. And know your players, of course. If you have some real extroverted social people, you might consider some more party-style games. If you have perhaps more analytical people, more thinky people, think of, play something a little heavier with some more rules.
And it's okay to communicate with them like, hey, what are you interested in playing? And think about it in advance with people as opposed to just being like, here, these are the 3 games I thought would be great. And they're just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing today.
One I can't stress enough is the next one. Know your player count limit. If you have 10 people coming over, don't pull out a 4-player game.
Or you also have a 6-player game for the others.
Or 2 more 4-player games.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Know the rules beforehand. Don't go to but don't just go to the store, grab a game, and then invite people over thinking you're just going to play it right then and there. There's a process to learning board games. So you have to read the rules, make sure you know how to set it up and play and everything. We highly recommend doing that beforehand because I'll tell you one of the things that'll scare people off faster than anything is if you have a group of people just staring at you while you're reading a rule book, a 27-page rule book, word for word. That'll scare them off quick. And then if it's your first play and the board game box says the game takes an hour, it probably takes 2 or 3 hours for your first play. So just kind of obvious stuff like that. And just for just in my own experience is one of the first hobbies board games I bought was Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, which is a big, heavy co-op game. And the box said it can play 8 players. So I invited 8 people over to play a game that should probably only be played by maybe 4. And we did that for about 12 hours.
You started at like 10 o'clock at night, too.
Yeah, we started about 10. I was like, yeah, we'll just play this real quick. Nope.
It's going to be an hour game. It's fine. 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Games often have expansions. If you didn't get enough of the main game and you want to add a little more, I would say most games have expansions, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's really easy to
least.
find information about those,
Yeah.
so it's pretty good.
And pictured on the right is Arkham Horror with a whole bunch of expansions. Here is all of Arkham Horror with all expansions set up. I would say that is one of the heaviest board gaming experiences you could probably experience. I think the game is so complex that you would need a moderator that their whole job is just rules enforcement.
RPGs?
Soon. Oh, yeah, we should.
We have 4 minutes.
Yeah, house rules, homebrew. If there's something about the game you don't like,
Make the change.
just make the
It's
change.
fine.
Do it.
If you guys have played Werewolf with us, you've seen our custom cards.
Yeah, we
like
make
that.
custom rules and
Yeah.
stuff. It's fun.
Retheme it, things like that. Might be a retheme
Yeah.
coming to a LANallNIGHT near you.
And we usually have someone on here going through the RPGs in a lot of detail. So we're,
I think we can just do a quick overview.
Yeah.
So lately, as we've been doing a couple online and in-person events, we've been getting more and more questions like, hey, is anybody going to run some D&D? That's really hard to do on the fly unless you are just really good about setting up one-shots. And that is something that I think you do really well.
I need to start doing it
that
more,
we
yeah.
need to do again. But it's more than just D&D. Like 5th edition is a great game. Takes a lot of what's good about 3.5 that people miss, but it makes it a little bit more streamlined. So, and there's so much out for it now. I haven't played it since it was just like the player manual, the DM thing, and like the first monster one. Now that's just like books on books on books,
Yeah.
like 3rd edition or 3rd and 3.5 are.
Yeah.
What are the RPGs that you really like? Because I think those are some unique ones. Everyone knows about 5th Ed.
Oh, yeah. I really like All Flesh Must Be Consumed, I think is what it's called. It's a zombie-based one. It's absurd. It's a lot of fun. The other one I like is, the name. It's like The World is Ending or End of the...
Yes, the red and black book.
Yes. What is it called?
I forgot. But
It's like End of the World or something. But
It's so
essentially,
good.
what makes it unique is that the RPG begins, and you are playing yourself in this RPG. And actually, when you're making your character, you have to. It's very simple stats like strength, agility, dexterity, stuff like that. So very simple stats. But then you have to. All the players secretly take some dice, and then they mix them all up, so no one knows who voted what. But if I say I'm obviously a 10 strength, I'm the strongest person in the world.
Strong.
Right. The other players can say you're more like you're 5 strength. It's whatever.
You're 2.
Yeah. So and they could vote that, and that'll bring them down a little bit.
It's so good.
But the game begins where you're sitting at the table. So suddenly the world is ending through some kind of apocalypse, and you just go.
Well, there is a DM though that set like everybody makes their characters, and the DM is like, okay, I die this way. Better figure it out.
Yeah, so it's something like, all right, the game begins. I'm going to get up and go to the restroom. And then you hear a scream. It's something weird like that.
Yeah, but there's Faith with the fudge dice.
Okay.
There's Delta Green. There's Paranoia, which is possibly my favorite.
Paranoia is what I want to try out.
Oh, yeah.
So amazing.
Oh, another one I want to talk about that's really unique is...
My Little Pony.
Oh, yeah, there's a My Little Pony one. There's one called Everyone is John. And that game is the GM is playing a person named John, and the players are voices in his head.
We have to do that.
We have to do it.
Yeah.
And they're essentially, each voice in the head has their own like goals and agendas for John. So it's neat.
But there's all kinds of RPGs out there, from the ones that we've just mentioned to... I'm hoping... Oh, that's back.
Oh, yeah, I was just... we're not really talking about this what's on the slide just because
we have like a minute.
We're at time, so...
Yeah. So whenever I see us go away is when... unless we just want to do a quick wrap-up.
Yeah, a couple rules for our... Well, do we want to...
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Just go to the one picture that we like with the... keep going.
We could go... Yeah, we did go into a lot with RPGs.
This will be available on the website.
Right, Dragon Age, all this. There's one that there's a Sailor Moon RPG there. Yeah, there's like a Walking Dead one. If there is a genre that you really like, there is an RPG for it. And it can be like complete campaign like you're used to seeing from these, or it can be one-shots. Okay, there it is. There's a Maid one.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
D&D,
yeah, that's a good intro
essential.
one. They actually play that at the school I teach.
There's a Princess Bride RPG.
Yes, Princess Bride RPG.
Sailor Moon Maid.
I've been told you guys can keep going for a little bit longer.
Oh, awesome. Okay. There it is. All Flesh Must Be Eaten. Death Watch, so a Warhammer 40K RPG.
That's the one that you did recently, right? Or recently in the last
it was. We were doing.
There's
Dark
one based on
Heresy?
Princess Bride. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one. It was Dark Heresy.
Dark Heresy.
Yeah.
And then Edge of the Empire, and then
So there's Star Wars ones.
E-Rock. What were some of the ones that you did when we were going to the brewery?
He loves. There's also Legacy of Dragonholt. There is Genesis. There is A lot of from Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, there's a
lot.
bunch
Fantasy
of
Flight
bunch of
does a lot.
systems
I
out
think
there.
wasn't there talks of them doing a TI4 one or something? Or
Yes, that's coming soon. There's about to be a Twilight Imperium themed RPG rule set coming out
But there
for
needs
the
to be-
Genesis system.
Because the lore is there. So it's just going to be a source book. It's going
Yes,
to be the
exactly.
Genesis format. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll check it out.
We can get E-Rock to run it.
Yeah. If we have a few more minutes.
And RPGs, there's just so much to go into for them. They're their own like land of tabletop. It's amazing. It is a lot to just put together on the fly and throw out. I think there's very few people over time that I've met that I'm like, this is my go-to person. And one of them's been in chat with us. E-Rock is like, he is the king of RPGs in my world. And I know there's more out there. But if you can find that person to help start a group or to help you get going down the right path, or running one-shots to see what you guys like, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
It's hard to start, but it's great if you can.
I was running a campaign that was set in Ravnica.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty much about the gates. There was the like Demir, House Demir, Boros Legion, and all that, and they were just trying to figure out how to coexist with each other on this plane. And we almost got to the point where I brought Jason and was like, yeah, we're about to destroy all the gates.
Yeah. And normally we do this panel at conventions, so normally we take questions, that sort of thing. We've been trying to watch Twitch chat and answer on the fly.
Somebody asked about board games, like making a board game.
Oh, yeah, that was a great one. Have any of us attempted to make our own board game?
Yes.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
So, I mean, I play test a lot. I am in the ear of a couple designers. We have a couple designer friends that hang out with us.
Playtesting is fun.
Playtesting is amazing. But pretty much the easiest way to do, just get an idea, put it on paper. If it has cards, just get some magic cards, write the stuff on there. Don't worry about the art. Don't worry about the rules. Just find the flow that you want. Pretty much what I was doing was I was just coming up with ideas. And Colby from Plaid Hat Games, Colin, he used to be a Plaid Hat Games. I'll just throw them ideas like, hey, what do you think about this? They'll give you feedback. A lot of people in the board game industry are very friendly, like overly friendly. If you need help and you reach out, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna find somebody very quickly that's gonna reach out and help, especially playtesting.
There's a couple Discords that we're in that's people who are in the Dallas area who are attempting to make their games, and they are working together. It's like, hey, I just got to this point in my game. Who can jump on and play test this with me and things like that. They've been super friendly if you want to go through that.
I believe the group is the Dallas Designers Group, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm bad with names. But, and we've had a couple of friends go through it. Like he's really good friends with the Plaid Hat Games guys to kind of see some of that in playtest. There's one called Zoography. One of our friends has been making, and they're going to do an expansion and more games after that. It was really neat seeing that kind of from the ground up from a good friend.
For sure. Seeing a prototype and then actually seeing what's going to be your mass marketed sample. It's fantastic.
How can I become a playtester? I've got a good group that loves to discuss rules and make suggestions for balance.
Okay, yeah, I can talk about this. So it's easy. Just reach out to whatever design house that you like. If you like Fantasy Flight, you can email, like go to their website, find out about their playtesters program, and then just apply for it. Level 99, they get all their people from their Discord because it's all about, hey, we're going to put this content out there. We just want you to test it, document, and send it back. But if you're going to play test, don't approach it with the mindset, oh, I get to play a game early. Oh, I'm going to have fun. Your job isn't to, A, make the game better. It's not to just have the joy of playing a game early. It is to get statistics for the designers so they can actually work on balancing. If you want to be a playtester, realize you're a playtester. You're not a designer. Because, I mean, I wouldn't go to the person who fixes my car and ask them, hey, can you fix my basketball goal, or show me how to shoot a jump shot? You just don't. And then plus it comes off as very rude, I would consider, because if I've been putting the last 18 months of my life into this game, and I ask you, hey, can you test it? Of course, positive criticism is always going to be great. But if I'm asking you to play my game and give me your stats, I'm just looking for you to be there to give me the information I need.
Yeah. Yeah, they want data.
Yeah,
They
it's
went
mainly
is a
data
big thing.
gathering.
Yeah.
But if you build a relationship with them, you can discover
sure.
like good ways to talk with them through it. When you're like, there's something about this that's just not quite making sense to us, and maybe that discussion is a little bit better than, yo, we don't like this part.
Yeah.
You should do this instead. And that's kind of like, well, okay.
Look up design
the
groups, local design groups.
What was
They
it
exist.
called?
I believe this one is the one nearest to us is the Dallas Design Group or Dallas Designers Group, something like that.
And they're really good about having a Facebook page that will also link you to a Discord, things like that. I know Goliath Games was looking for families and kids to start playtesting a lot of their games as well. But going through an actual company for something that you like there, or if you want to go more indie games and like local groups, that kind of looking up a group that does that doesn't necessarily isn't attached to a brand name would be the two good ways to do it.
Yeah,
but for sure, just go to their website. A lot of them will have the information of their playtesting program listed. What's cool is that designers will pay you for your time most of the time.
wow.
Oh, nice.
I typically didn't take any type of payment or compensation from Plaid Hat because the personal friends, like we've hung out with probably every person who made a game for Plaid Hat. We've probably hung out with.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very, very awesome people, and they make some of my favorite games, which I didn't mention, but Dead of Winter is one of my favorite board games. It's along that Battlestar Galactica, The Thing, Dead of Winter, that trader mechanic, but with more things going on.
Yep.
But they've just, all the games that I've played through Plaid Hats, even without that, has just been phenomenal.
Yep. And so we are going to go ahead and need to wrap up. We appreciate the extra time. Again, we could talk about this forever.
Right? We're in the other room playing board games if you want to continue any of these discussions.
Come say hi. We, again, my name is Matt.
I am Tori, or Tortor in Discord.
Catch.
And we're with the
Also
DFW Gaming Village. You can find us on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. And come hang out and play games with us. And we're here at LANallNIGHT. You should come here as well.
Woo!
Woo, thank y'all.
Yeah, donate, like,
Oh, yeah.
subscribe.
Yes.
So many prizes. If you're here in person, you've got a ticket, or if you're online and you've got a ticket, there's just so many things around us that are awesome. Canned food drive, things like that.
All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you guys. And